So now we're going to talk really about attracting new members. Take a deep dive on that first section of the club action plan, and we want to continue to make sure that we adapt and we expand our reach, increase our engagement well beyond our club. All this so we can effectively impact our organization and our ability to adapt. And one of the things that we always try to do when we assess our attraction efforts to date is, what's our club look like? If we took a picture of our club and took a picture of our community, is it similar? Are there areas of our community that aren't represented in our club? And then if there are, then how do we attract those folks? How do we attract that demographic and make a club environment that is appealing to them and give them the ability to engage? Good story out of a successful story out of Utah. They had a club president that was a young mom, and she wanted to try and create an environment where her friends could engage in Rotary. So she started doing weekend service projects. And before she knew it, she had to actually limit the number of people. She was getting 50, 60 to 100 people showing up at a weekend service project of her friends, and they were bringing kids, and the whole family was getting engaged, that she actually had to limit the number of people that she could invite to these Rotary Club service projects on the weekend because there was just too much of a demand. And the last I'd heard is she was actually working on creating a club, an impact club that would really just be focused on serving that community. And they would meet in a park, and the kids would come and have a good time, and the parents would work on a meaningful service project that would address the needs of their community. So attracting new members, super important, but we got to do it in a meaningful way. As we talked about before, we don't simply want numbers. That's not the intent. We want to attract the right ones. Next slide, please. So it's important, the value alignment interview, kind of to set the stage for this. It's important that we bring into individuals in our club that meld well into the group. We don't want to create chaos in our organizations. We want to make sure that that folks that are invited to join our organization will add to the diversity and to the culture of the club, and that we build an organization that's easily accessible and engaging to our members. Again, if we look out to the community, does our club look like it? Is it similar? Are we as diverse as our community? I was talking to a district in Texas, and they seem to struggle. This club seemed to struggle with a fair representation of Hispanic people in their community. The community was about 90% Hispanic, only about 5% in their club. So what they did is they started at asking and being intent with some degree of intentionality, asking leaders of the community to join their club. And now they've completely switched, and they're about 80% Hispanic in their club, and it's more representative of their community. But they didn't know it until they started looking at the demographics of their club and started comparing it to the community. And so they become intentional with their efforts and have started to see results. Who on this call interviews their prospective members? Anybody on the call here have an interview process for existing members? And if so, what does that look like?
This is Bud from Tubac, and we do that.
Yeah, Bud, what kind of questions do you ask?
Usually starts out if they were a Rotarian before. For some reason, a lot of people in our club have been Rotarians in their past life. But background of what they've done, what their interests are, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, perfect. Anybody else? Anybody else do an interview process of some sort?
I want to put a finer point on Bud. Bud's in my club. We actually give them a new member packet ahead of time. We don't give them a new member packet when they join the club. We give them a new member packet when they're considering it, and we load it with things about our clubs. We load it with a letter saying this is what we are and this is what Rotarians in our club do, so that when they read that and we have our interview with them, then they have an understanding of what we are, and then we can listen to them and have that discussion as to how we can meet what they're looking for. Kind of like giving them a membership packet afterwards, maybe they didn't understand everything. So we hope to give them as much information up front.
Perfect.
Hi, this is Alita from Jeff Mountain. We made a separate packet for prospective new members, so it's not quite as lengthy as our new member packet, but we do sit down one-on-one. Last week, we had a meet and greet type of event here at the clubhouse, and myself and our President Prudy were there. So we could talk to people that were interested that just walked in.
Yeah.
Other times when we get a referral for a potential new member, we will sit down one-on-one with them and just talk about, you know, their experience, what attracted you to Rotary, and just a general type conversation. But we also always invite them to an upcoming meeting so they can see for themselves the people in the club. We're really friendly, and it's working very well.
Outstanding, Alita.
And I think we also want to look at what that person is seeking
Yeah.
to better understand as well. What we ask, what are you? Why are you seeking membership here? And we want to make sure that they then, in talking with us, exchange enough information so that they feel like, yeah, this is a better fit. We feel it, they feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the key is if we ask that question, you know, what is it that brought you here, or what is it that's important to you? Then we got to be prepared to take action on that, don't we? There's a club in Las Vegas, a new club. They've been around about 4 years, and they actually ask each of their new members to bring a new nonprofit to Rotary and introduce it to the club. So they have a speaker come in from a new nonprofit that they're not familiar with, the club being not familiar with. But it's important to that new member, and then they do a service project. That new member is charged with a service project with that new nonprofit to get the club engaged with that new member and what's important to them. So yeah, if we ask that question, we got to be prepared for sure to meet that need, and that'll absolutely have an impact on that 1 to 3 year Rotarian that we lose. And Bruce will talk more about those numbers shortly. So anybody else? Yeah, Michelle.
Charlotte, I'm from Via Verde Rotary Club, and Charlotte Gates created a wonderful one-page history of Rotary, dating back to the very inception of it. We then talk about our club in it and indicate the committees that we have in which they can be a member. And it concludes with the financial expectations, the dues, annual dues. And we give that to them once they've expressed a genuine interest, filled out the application for membership. Then they get that sheet, so they really have an understanding of what are the expectations and what are the financial implications for their membership.
Yeah, outstanding, Michelle. Let's go on a little bit more and talk a little bit about this value alignment interview. And these are just some questions that we've come up with, many of which have already been talked about. But tell me a little bit about yourself, your personality, and your professional life. And Mark Maloney talked about this, and we really have to create a club that meets families where they're at, don't we? We got to do a better job of creating an environment where young professionals, along with their kids, can join us in service and not be in conflict. I often talk about our competition. 10 years ago, 20 years ago, soccer was a 2-month sport in high school. And now there's a whole economy built around soccer that goes 365 days a year. And the parents are taking kids all over the country, the Southwestern United States to get engaged. That's our competition. Create an environment that's flexible for those folks to get engaged in service and maybe see where we can meet them where they're at. How did you find out about Rotary? How did you hear about it? Again, we had that question already talked about. What's appealing about it? And how did you find out about Rotary? If you have questions about the LEADS program, we don't really have time to discuss that, but reach out to Bruce. There's folks go to Rotary International regularly and say, hey, I'm interested in Rotary, and live in Tucson, for example, and they fill out a form, and that gets forwarded to Bruce and to Governor Anita. And those folks are, kind of low-hanging fruit, if you will, to reach out to. So we can do a whole another program on that if you'd like. What's appealing about it? What do you find appealing about Rotary? What drew you to our organization? What are your expectations? And then take a deeper dive on that. Don't just settle with the first one and, the old what else, and take a deeper dive into what their expectations are. Because if we can meet their expectations, the chances of them sticking around a little bit longer and being more engaged certainly rise. If we decide it's a right fit, what does your membership look like a year from now? What's that first year look like for you in our club? And then share with them a little bit about the club. And Michelle talked about that. They've got that written out, and make sure that's up to date and relevant to your service projects. I know we were looking at our flyer the other day in our club, and there's stuff on there that we don't do anymore. So we need to update that, make sure it's relevant. How do you think you can contribute to the club's success? And Michelle, I think it was, talked about that. And, with the committees, get them involved in a committee pretty early on, get them engaged and listen to them, value their input into your organization, and manage expectations. Is this what you want? Are we meeting your needs? Talking about that money commitment. Clubs have varying degrees of commitments, whether, weekly meetings with a meal at a nice golf course might be $30 or $40 a week, where a club that meets twice a month in the evening might have just the Rotary International and district dues, for example. So what's the money commitment? What's the time commitment? How can we use their talents? Everybody comes to the table with some expertise, and how can we best utilize that and get them engaged? And if not us, who then? I mean, what else are they looking at besides us as an organization where they can serve? And our club had this conversation. We want to get engaged with the 3rd through 5th grade population and their parents. So there's some discussion about, how can we get engaged in that, whether it's with the teachers or the PTA and so on and so forth. So our club is having some of those discussions right now. Next slide. The next one is really just talking about some different club options. So some clubs are deep in fellowship and diverse, very diverse and service oriented. Others are more into service, fellowship, and leadership. And then you've got some clubs that's in Club C really becomes super important to some of the young professionals that really want to focus on some of the leadership and integrity is important. The 4-way test, and they report back on those types of things. And then service certainly also is important. Each of these are different club models. Your club probably falls into these. Any of these look familiar to one of your clubs? Anything kind of resonate with the clubs? Michelle, what do you think? Where's your club? Is it more Club A, Club B, Club C?
I would say it's Club A right now.
Yeah, fellowship is important. And Vicki alluded to that. I mean, it's the friendship that we get over time that people stay. That's what gets people in Rotary or keeps that retention factor high in the long run, is that fellowship and friendship. Not just at the weekly meetings. You'll find that most of their friends are Rotarians, and they do things with them off duty or out of the club experience as well. So absolutely.
Excuse me, John, I have seen, and Charlotte could correct me or add to it, that our new members, they seem to fit in right away. They wind up at it with a group of people at the meetings, and they're very welcomed. I think that the fellowship is critical in integrating a new person to the club.
Right, and we're also getting younger members in our club now too. So Michelle has done a great job since she's been in membership. We have increased beginning of this year. How many, Michelle? 12?
We have 10 new members. And 3 that are in the works, and they'll join. I'm sure they'll join.
Outstanding.
So John, this is Sue.
Yes.
I think our club is a B club. We have really good attendance at our service projects. I mean, we're a small club. We're small, but we seem to people that can't seem to make all the meetings, certainly make every effort to make all the service projects. So we also meet at a winery. So Fellowship the Winery makes sometimes our meetings go long, and we enjoy that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the experts will suggest that inviting a prospective new member to service as a nice introduction to your club is certainly a preferred way to get them engaged pretty early. If they like the service, certainly come to the meeting to learn more. So.
And John, as a cause-based club, our Tucson Verde Club, it's all about service.
Yeah.
Of course, I wish we could meet at a winery too. So.
Come on
But
down,
it's all about environmental projects. So
Yeah,
it's
it's really,
club-based.
service and
Club-based.
fellowship is important for sure. And I would imagine, Ellie, that you become friends with your Rotarians in that service, and you have a common ground to grow upon. So.
Yeah, ours is strongly service, but I'm finding that the fellowship part is so integral, and it is becoming, I think, more important when it comes to retention. We really get together. We've become not only a club, but we've also become friends personally, and that becomes a very meaningful part. And I can't stress the fellowship part that goes along with the service.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I was at a club in Palmdale, California a couple of months ago, and they recite, it was a small club, and they recite the four-way test. And when they got done with the four-way test, they all stood and applauded. You just swore there was about 50 people in the room for the noise they made. And when I started talking to them and learning more about their demographics, I think there was about 10 members or so, 8 to 10 or something. I don't remember for sure. But they said, we all show up every week at every service project because we don't want to let each other down. We care about one another, and we're going to be there to support one another. It's not only in club service, but in difficult times. Wendy, go ahead.
I think our club is a club B. We really attract people because of all the service projects that we do. But fellowship is a big piece. We've become friends and family, really.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Wendy. How about for the young professionals? Any young professional clubs? Club C, is professional development super important to that demographic, do you think?
Well, I'm listening. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but I'm from the Rotary Club of Tucson, and I rather think that our club is leadership, fellowship, and service, which is obviously integrity, but that should go through all clubs. But I think we're a combination of, it's a different model: leadership, fellowship, and service. I know that we certainly have deep fellowship in our club, absolutely.
Yeah, perfect, Margaret. And the key is when you're thinking about that value alignment question and interview is, you really have to understand who your club is and what your club stands for, so you can make sure that you're attracting the right individuals. So let's go to the next step in the attraction process, and this is going to talk a little bit about some of the tools that are available. And you could throw these right into Google, and they'll pop up, or you could go to the zone2627.org website that I mentioned earlier. But if you're looking at growing your club in corporate memberships, and you've got some big companies in your area, the guide to corporate memberships is an interesting, I think, 4 or 5 page document that you can kind of review and get some ideas from. Satellite clubs. How many people here have a satellite club? Just by a show of hands. Maybe a few of you, I'm sure, but satellite clubs is a great way to grow your club. The satellite club can meet at a different location, different time. Ellie, maybe they can meet at a winery, and you guys could go join them from time to time and join in some fellowship. Engaging younger professionals is another document that really talks about, what's this demographic look for? How can you, as your club, attract these types of individuals and be attractive as an organization, and creating a positive experience for prospective members. And some of you have alluded to some of what your club is doing already for that. And I see the comment outstanding that you have a satellite club. Many clubs should have a satellite club. I think it's just a great opportunity to grow. There's more.
John?
Yes.
I just have another thought. the other thing that I see helping at least our members is when we get to visit or work with another club, is realizing that Rotary isn't just in our community. You get people that walk in the door that don't understand the breadth of Rotary. And I think another strategy is to open yourselves up and do joint projects. And we've been talking about that a lot in our district. And I think it pays off in relationships and understanding and people staying around.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Susan. Too often we kind of think it's a competition between our club and other
No.
clubs, don't we? And if we could get into a situation where we interview somebody as a prospective member and we say, hey, you know what? I don't know that you're a right fit for us, but I know the environment's important to you, and Ellie's got just the club for you. And they meet on X and such and such date. Do you mind if I pass your information on to Ellie so she can reach out to you about their new cause-based club? So absolutely. And John,
So another concept about that, the opposite of that, is when someone's leaving, saying, why are you leaving? There's this other club that's smaller maybe or larger, depending on what you're looking for. I mean, there's two sides of that, bringing people in and making sure people stay connected to Rotary overall. I think there was one club that I had a conversation with not too long ago about maybe we need to chase down those people that have left other clubs and find out why. Maybe they're too small, maybe they're too big, maybe their interest is different than mine, but there may be another club that might be of your interest. Not sure how to do that, but I think it's an interesting concept.
Yeah. Whether you're a DAC-DB or a Rotary, let's see, the other one,
Club runner.
I just drew a blank. Yeah, both of those can data mine and tell you who your past members are that have left the organization. You could absolutely have a coordinated effort. There's some districts that have done that quite well, and we can pull those resources for you, Susan. John, did you have a comment?
No, it's it was kind of relevant, but not really as a conversation. Says I'll bring it up later, probably.
Okay, outstanding. Thank you so much. So anyway, 4 documents. There are a ton out there. These are just 4 that you can utilize to get some ideas on new member attraction. Next slide is going to talk about 4 questions that we're going to be talking about in our breakout group. So when you go into your breakout groups, and Leo has got those all set up here, we'll be doing that shortly. You'll be given the opportunity really to start filling out that club action plan, and we're working on that first part of attraction. So as we go through these questions, you could click through them, Leo, there's 4. You'll be able to share your ideas with the folks in your groups and start filling in those ideas that you hear from your peers and maybe that you've heard already as far as ideas on who and how you can better attract new members and stay engaged in that process. And really, I mentioned it before, it's an intentional conversation that all of your members should really be thinking about who's a good fit for our club really all the time, and not just a membership chair's responsibility. So with that, I think the next slide is, and these are the 4 questions. How might you influence it? Your moderators in your 4 or 6 breakout rooms have these questions, and we'll get that conversation going for you. So we will see you in a little bit, and enjoy the breakout room for the next 15 minutes or so. Leo, can you switch it back a slide or 2 to who's in what breakout room so I know who to call out for the breakouts?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Can't see everyone.
Okay.
So let's just, John, to try to save a little time, let's kind of pick 1 or 2 items that were identified for breakout room.
One item at each breakout real quick now. Charlotte, real fast.
Okay. Well, one of the things that we found that, when they bring a new member in, make sure that you try to make them feel welcome. If you can, put them in a group, if you know about your incoming person, to kind of put them in a group that might have similar interests. And some of them to influence is one of the clubs has like a little brochure that kind of talks about their club, and they'll give that out to them. And projects. One of the things that attracts the other ones are using the projects that they're involved with.
Perfect. Thank you, Charlotte. Bruce.
Well, Charlotte kind of talked on it. We thought that coming to a meeting may not be as effective as actually introducing someone to Rotary via a service project.
Yep.
In fact, that's right. When it said that, that's how I became a Rotarian. I went to a service project and didn't even realize it was a Rotary project until someone told me it was. And also making sure that when you talk to a potential new member that you have a story, maybe it's not the 1.4 million, maybe it's, this is what our club does. And to see,
Yes.
they're joining your club, they're not joining Rotary International.
Yep. Perfect. Candy.
All right, we got this information just as we were closing down, so I asked Michelle if she could send it to everybody, but she herself has drafted a sponsor duties list and a mentor duties list to give to the sponsor of the person and the mentor of the person to help them bring that new person on. And I would love to see those, but I thought that was great. Better communication with school districts and with towns to say, what can we do for you? And then try to bring those people in back to our club. And we did not talk at all about engaging and retaining existing members, but what we're doing in our club is we have a birthday and anniversary cake once a month. We celebrate everybody's birthdays and anniversaries for that month. Send out birthday cards to everyone when their birthdays are coming up and when their anniversaries are coming up so that they know we're thinking about them. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm done.
perfect. Thank you. And Marcos, what kind of attraction tools did you talk about?
So Emma was talking about her club actually has a card, which in the back of the card has a lot of the projects and things that they do. So whenever it does come up that they have something going on, they have that card with them, and they can pull it up and say, hey, this is the kind of stuff my club or our club is doing. And this is a kind of different projects going on, and it helps them to talk to potential members or even, other club members in other Rotary clubs and let them know this is what we're doing. So I think that was one of that was the highlight that what we had during our session.
Outstanding, Marcos. How about you, Wendy? One attraction technique that you heard about?
Well, we talked a lot about media and how important it is to have a website and have the website up to date, how to advertise what you're doing in your local newspapers, not putting an ad in, which costs money, but having pictures of the highway cleanup that you did that shows Rotarians out working. Somebody suggested that we have commercial advertising from RI, so the RI people, publicity grants, so that we'd be able to, or even district percentage of our dues going to commercial advertising to advertise about what Rotary International is and everything that they're doing. Like maybe you could get them to put an ad in the Super Bowl. A discount for 2 people in your family with your dues, bringing guests to meetings, having a prospective member packet.
Perfect. So everybody should have at least 4 good ideas that they could take back to their club and share and have some discussion about. One thing I heard in our group, group 6, that I found interesting is Saddlebrook Sunrise is participating in an activity fair. Frank was talking about that. So that's where all local nonprofits come together and share their needs for volunteers at different service projects. So if you want more information on that, talk to Frank at Saddlebrook Sunrise. And with that, Bruce, I'm back to you for the next step.